नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। तो आज हम भगवद गीता के तीसरे अध्याय का 33वां और 34वां श्लोक करेंगे। 33वां श्लोक वैसे हमने पिछली बार कर लिया था, तो हम 34वां करेंगे। इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषो व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्नावशम् आगच्छेत् तौ हि अस्य परिपन्थिनौ। There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Those who are in Krishna consciousness are naturally reluctant to engage in material sense gratification. But those who are not in such consciousness should follow the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures. Unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of material engagement. But one who follows the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures does not become entangled by the sense objects. For example, sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditioned soul, and sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties. According to scriptural injunctions, one is forbidden to engage in sex relationships with any woman other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother. But in spite of such injunctions, a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women. These propensities are to be curbed, otherwise they will be stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. As long as the material body is there, the necessities of the material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations. And yet we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. One has to follow those rules and regulations unattached to them, because practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray. As much as there is always the chance of an accident even on the royal roads, although they may be very carefully maintained, no one can guarantee that there will be no danger even on the safest road. The sense enjoyment spirit has been current a very long time, owing to material association. Therefore, in spite of regulated sense enjoyment, there is every chance of falling down. Therefore, any attachment for regulated sense enjoyment must also be avoided by all means. But attachment to Krishna consciousness, or acting always in the loving service of Krishna, detaches one from all kinds of sensory activities. Therefore, no one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness at any stage of life. The whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. So, in this series of verses, we have seen that how in verse number 30, Lord told Arjuna to surrender all the works unto him with full knowledge of him, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy. And then that's how performing one's duty. And the people who perform their duties according to these injunctions, they will become free from the bondage of fruitive actions, or in other words, they will become liberated. But those who disregard these principles out of envy, they are considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. In other words, such person can never attain perfection. Next, even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. So we have this nature and we must act according to this nature, or otherwise we will be forced to act in this nature. As till the person is self-realized or situated fully on the platform of Krishna consciousness, it is not possible to go beyond these three modes. Even a person who is self-realized, who is situated in a liberated state or Krishna consciousness state, even that person follows these the rules and regulations for these three modes of material nature. He acts according to them. Now, there are principles prescribed in the Vedic scriptures to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. So, when we are working, it's naturally that we become attached or averse to some things while performing our duties. We become attached to things that gives us pleasure, and we become averse to those who do not give us pleasure. So, this is natural. But one should not act under the control of such attachment and aversion. That's what Lord says in Bhagavad Gita. Because now this attachment and aversion, they become the stumbling blocks to one's self-realization. If a person is too much attached or too much averse, so this become a stumbling block to the path of self-realization. Rather, one should be detached from this attachment and aversion, and one should be neutral to whatever one comes on the way of performing his or her prescribed duties. Now, this is the stage which is prescribed for people who are still under the three modes, under the control of the three modes, and who are not currently fully situated in Krishna consciousness. In other words, this is for people, normal people like us. It is not for liberated souls. So we are not liberated, and the test for liberation is that we have attachment, we have aversion. So we must act according to the scriptural injunctions of to regulate such attachment and aversion. What are the scriptural injunctions? For instance, we are attached to eating nice food. We are attached to hearing nice music. We are attached to watch nice things which gives us pleasure. We are attached to wear clothes which are soft or things which give pleasure to our body, to our skin, which are comfortable like that. And we are averse towards things which give us pain. For instance, something which is not palatable in eating. We do not like such kind of food. We like food which is spicy. Some people like food which is spicy, which is it's lot of chilies or lot of with lot of chalk and like that. So that is good since that food is vegetarian, but some people are attached to eating non-vegetarian food, the food which is obtained after killing animals or causing violence to other species, while the food which is vegetarian, which is not caused by causing violence to other living beings, is considered suitable for advancement on the path of self-realization. And a person who wants to advance on the path of self-realization must regulate his food habits and follow only a vegetarian diet and avoid intake of alcohol and other intoxicants, which at present day we see are very popular. Wherever we go throughout the world, there is a culture of people indulging in alcohol and cigarette and other intoxicants. So this is a culture throughout the world, and we see that these days youngsters specifically are very attached to undertaking these intoxicants, to indulge in these intoxicants. So but if one wants to advance on the path of self realization, one must curb his attachment, give up his attachment towards such kind of sense satisfaction which does not lead or to progress on the path of self-realization. So we should not be attached to them, and even if we are attached, we should understand that for a higher purpose it is required that we must give up indulging in such sense activities. For instance, a student who's studying, he knows when there are exams that he must study. He must give up his tendency to go and play outside, interact with friends, and enjoy. Rather, one should stay back in his room and focus on his studies. So, similarly, for a higher purpose, we must give up the attachment to such things. Similarly, we are averse to a disciplined life. Each of us, we want to live a relaxed life wherever, when in that life, we do what we want to do as per our desires, doing things which we like. We do not want to wake up early in the morning, take bath, and do meditation. No, we are not inclined to do such things. Therefore, when it's on a weekend, when there is a holiday, each of us, whether we are still in school or college, or we are already pursuing our professional life and going to work, there is a in general tendency among people to stay in bed sleeping late till the daytime or noon time. So such things we should not be averse to getting up early in the morning and following our spiritual practices daily without any holidays, without any leave. So that thing is required. So this must be observed, and we should not be attached or averse. And because this attachment and this kind of aversion, they become the stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. They are actually the stumbling blocks, and must overcome them in order to progress on the path of self-realization. And when it comes to sense satisfaction, it is a necessity of this material body that till the time we are in this body, we must take care of this body. So we must give some food, we must breathe air, we must sleep, we must also indulge in sex life. Sex life is not a taboo or something to be condemned. It is a necessity of life. Just like we have this necessity of breathing air, we have this necessity of seeing because we have eyes. Without eyes, our life is highly restricted. We have this mouth, tongue, and we must eat something. So we have these material necessities. So we have the body, we have the faculties, so we have the respective necessities. The person who is progressive on the path of spiritual self-realization, he does not condemn, he or she does not condemn the necessities of the body. Rather, we take these necessities of the body and try to satisfy those necessities in such a way that it progresses us on the path of self-realization. For instance, when it comes to eating food, we do not eat food which is which makes us intoxicated, or we do not eat food which cause violence to other. Rather, we take vegetarian food stuff, and not just vegetarian, normal vegetarian food stuffs. We, before honoring it, we first offer it to their lordships, Shri Krishna and Srimati Radharani, or Gaur Nitai, or Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, or any other lordships. But we offer it first to their lordships. It is also an act of gratitude towards them, towards Mother Nature, that it's by their mercy that we have got these food grains, and we must offer them in a gesture of gratitude, in a gesture of thankfulness. And when we do that, and after that when we take food, then the food is not considered ordinary food, but it is considered as prasad. And when we eat that prasad, we become sanctified. And it is also necessary that when we are eating prasad, we must be in a state of gratefulness, gratitude, thankfulness that we have been blessed with this wonderful prasad, by eating which our consciousness will get purified, our body will get purified. And by doing such activities, we can engage this material necessity for our progressive way on the path of self-realization. Similarly, engaging in sexual activity is a material necessity of this body. It is required to be done. It is, we must do it, but how should we do it? We must not freely indulge ourselves in sexual activity like animals, like cats, like dogs. Rather, for human civilization, we see that we have a very civilized way of life, which is called marriage life or grihastha life. So, and in that life, an individual, a man, marries a woman who is from a respectable family, who have good etiquette, and they commit themselves to each other and to service of family and society together, and then they are permitted to indulge in sex life. However, it is advisable that one's indulgence in such activities, all activities, all sensual activities, including the indulgence in sex life, should be regulated. We should not, for instance, when it comes to eating food, we should regulate our food eating habits. We should not indulge in anything and everything which we like to do. Rather, we should do it in a disciplined manner. We should take food 3 times a day, and we should not take food which in such so much huge quantities that it makes us uncomfortable, lethargic, and becomes a hindrance in our performance of our duty. We should take only as much food as is required by the body to carry out its everyday necessary functions and keep this body healthy and protected. We should, so accordingly, we should act our tongue and our mouth in eating. We should not eat any random type at any random type of the day or any random time of the night. Rather, we should have a disciplined life. This will help us in keeping us our body healthy and strong. Similarly, indulgence in sex life must be regulated. Only after marrying one is allowed to have sex life, and only with one's wife. And even after that, after marrying, one should not be attached to freely indulging in sex life. Rather, one should do it in a disciplined manner. All these activities we must be done according to individual's nature and inclination. Some people, they are not at all inclined towards sex life and they can restrict this urge. So they are advised to engage in brahmacharya ashram. That means they do not have the need to get married. They can serve the society by being a brahmachari or a celibate throughout the life. However, normal people who have this general urge, and it's very difficult to control, so we are allowed to marry, but we should keep a check. We should keep it regulated, because the goal is not to follow the rules and regulation. Goal, excuse me, goal is to become unattached to the sense activities. So as Srila Prabhupada mentions, that we should not rely upon the control of such allowances, because even if we are attached to those attachments under those rules and regulations, there is a chance that we may go astray. Therefore, any attachment for regulated sense enjoyment, even regulated sense enjoyment, must also be avoided by all means. So it's not saying that we should avoid sense gratification and sense enjoyment at all means, but the attachment to sense enjoyment should be curbed. That is the propensity that we must be vigilant about. So therefore, and at the same time, Srila Prabhupada cautions in the last concluding sentence that no one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness at any stage of life. This is the most important part of whole thing, that rather than working on becoming detached from things, we should try to become attached to Krishna consciousness, attached towards the service of devotees, attached to the service of their lordships. When we do this, the detachment would become very natural. For instance, when we are distracted towards something, sorry, I'll give you a better example. For instance, if a person he is hungry and he has some old food, he will naturally be inclined to eat that old food because he is hungry, he is very hungry. But if you offer that person fresh food, freshly cooked meal, very delicious, paneer, chapatis or parathas, so naturally the person will very easily be able to give up those inferior, those old food which may not be very nicely cooked or which may be rotten, and he will readily take this food which is very healthy and very delicious. Similarly, our purpose of engaging in spiritual life should be to become attached towards the service of their lordship. We should replace our attachment in material sense enjoying life from the things in spiritual life. When we do that, the transition from material life to spiritual life, from sense enjoyment to spiritual enjoyment will become very easy, very convenient, and at the end of life it will be very easy for us to remember Krishna at the time of death and thus go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna, thank you for so much for watching this video. Please excuse me for exceeding the time limit. Hare Krishna.